Hello everyone and welcome to Maytech. Today we're going to look at disassembling and replacing the scales on the Benchmade Bugout. If you happen to have the Benchmade Bugout Mini, the process will be exactly the same. In case you're wondering about these wood scales, these are all scales that I make, and I make them in a variety of different woods. This red scale I have here is African Padauk. The ones above it are zebra wood, and on the Benchmade Mini is canary wood. And you can swap these scales for the stock scales that came on your Benchmade Bugout or Benchmade Bugout Mini. I also make back spacers for the Bugout, which I'll also show you how to install in this video. Just before we get into this video, if you could quickly hit the subscribe button to help us grow, it would be greatly appreciated. The first thing you're going to need to disassemble your Bugout is a number 6 and a number 10 Torx bit. Now you do want to make sure you're using a good quality Torx bit, as you don't want to strip the head of your machine screws. The screws on the body are actually quite small, so tweezers may come in handy for placing them. The screws themselves do have a thread locker on them from the factory, so you can choose to apply thread locker again if you want. Personally, I usually don't bother, but if you do, make sure it's a removable thread locker and not a permanent one, so you'll be looking for a blue color. Also, I prefer the paste thread lock over the liquid, as it's simply way less mess. To start the disassembly process, unfold your Bugout and lay it flat. Next, use your number 10 Torx bit to remove the pivot screw. If your pivot screw is extra tight, you may need to get something like one of these thumb ratchets in order to apply enough torque to loosen it. Also, if your pivot screw starts to spin on you, you might have to anchor it on the other side with another Torx bit. Next, you want to take your number 6 Torx bit and remove all 4 body screws. With those 4 screws removed, you can now remove the scale and place it off to the side. Now, using the tip of one of your Torx bits, gently push out the remaining half of the pivot nut. You can now remove the blade and separate it from the rest of the knife. Note that there are 2 washers on either side of the blade that you want to make sure come out with the blade. If they don't, you'll want to take your tweezers and fish them out. You'll now want to take the remaining scale and flip it over so you can work on the side with the clip. Using the number 6 Torx bit, remove the 2 screws that are holding on the pocket clip. Using that same bit, remove the remaining 4 body screws. Your scale should now be separated from the rest of the knife's hardware. To reassemble your Bugout, start by laying one of your scales down with the inside facing up. Then insert the liner assembly. You can then flip your scale over and insert and tighten the 2 screws that hold on the liner assembly. Next, insert one of your spacers along with the corresponding screw on the other side and tighten it. Note that the spacers are notched, so they'll only fit in a certain way. You can now install the second spacer using exactly the same method. If you have a backer you'd like to use, now's the time to add it. Simply clip it into the 2 spacers that you just installed. Now you can take your blade and slide it into the liner assembly. Next, you'll want to take your washers and insert one on each side of your blade. This process can be a bit finicky, so you'll probably want to use your tweezers for this. Using your tweezers or a small punch, line up all your pivot pinholes. You can now take your pivot pin nut and insert it through the bottom. This step might take a little bit of finessing and a couple tries. Once you get your access pin nut installed, lay your knife down on a flat surface so it won't fall out. Now take your remaining scale and line it up with the screw holes. Take your remaining screws and place them into the corresponding holes. And you can now go ahead and tighten them all. This is probably a good time to mention that when you are tightening the screws, make sure you just snug them down and don't over tighten them, or you could strip the heads or damage the scales. So the final step is to flip your knife over and install the pocket clip. Once that's done, you've now fully reassembled your knife and you're now good to go. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them in the comments below. If you want to find out more about the wood scales or other products I make, the link will be in the description. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, everyone.